We're almost done with this series on In the Same Boat, and so I'm just wondering today, does anybody get car sick? Anybody get car sick? I've driven kids to camp, and almost every year I have to pull over for some kind of a puke break. Right? So when you're driving kids to camp, you kind of keep an eye on the rearview mirror, you look at the kid in the back seat, and when he starts doing this, pull over. Because you don't want them to puke in your car, right? And so because some people get car sick. Anybody get seasick? Okay. So Loretta, she doesn't like the water because, matter of fact, somebody said, does that bother her? She gets car sick getting on the freeway. It's just really kind of fragile that way. But anyway, so see, when you go on a fishing trip, you guys know I'm talking about going on a fishing trip, and you're on the boat. Anybody know the feeling? And some people are fishing, some people are chumming. Right? Matter of fact, if you're chumming, here's some advice. If you're chumming, don't go to the front of the boat. Because there's a breeze. And if you're trying to fish but you're chumming and there's a breeze, and you decide you're going to do away with breakfast, the breeze will bring it back.
That's right.
What are you saying? You'll puke on yourself. You will. So go to the back of the boat. But anyway, some people get really seasick, and so those people that are prone to being seasick, they prefer that nothing rock the boat, right? Everybody say rock the boat. They prefer that nothing rock the boat. And so most of us, we prefer things to be pretty stable in life, right? We don't like things rocking our boat. So and here's the way it works. It's not that it might not upset our stomach, but sometimes when somebody rocks the boat, it just kind of upsets our attitude. Anybody ever had somebody rock your boat and it upsets your attitude, or need a couple of friends? Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Somebody do something dumb, something happens, you're on a family outing, everything is good, and there's that one kid, right? He's like, here we go, right? So we don't like anybody rocking our boat. So turn to somebody and tell them, don't rock the boat. Now, they needed to hear that, didn't they? Matter of fact, if you're a parent, tell them again. Just tell them again. Yeah, don't rock the boat, right? And so, now, like I said last week, I don't know a whole lot about boats, but I know a couple of factors that are really important if you're in a boat. And these two factors determine whether the boat sails or sinks. So this is a really big deal. So the two factors are buoyancy, and that's the ability of the boat to stay above the waterline, because if the boat does not stay above the waterline, realize, my friend, you're not in a submarine, but it will become a submarine, okay? So buoyancy is a big deal, and balance is a big deal. The ability to keep it in balance, because if you can't keep it in balance, you'll turn it over, right? So see, some of us know, like, anybody ever been in a canoe? Canoes are hard to balance. So if you're in a canoe and a friend is trying to get in the canoe, doesn't that make you nervous? You're like, hey. So because it's narrow, it's really hard to balance, right? So now for us, when our margins of life are narrow margins, when we don't have any wiggle room in our life, balance is really, really hard, okay? And so if you don't have any margins built into your life, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get wet. Now, I'm not talking about how much you're doing. I'm talking about what you're doing. Because, friends, balance is not about how much you're doing, because sometimes you can quit all the wrong stuff and you don't get any better with the balance. Okay? So it's not about how much you're doing, it's are you doing the right things? Here's what all of you guys know. There's some things that are exhausting. Anybody know there's some things that are exhausting? And there's some things that are empowering, right? I love talking to people and having conversations and answering questions, and I love that kind of stuff. For me, that stuff is encouraging. But shopping, God, I can't do it. So for me, if I'm going to do a lot of shopping with Loretta, it's going to wear me out. It's going to wear me out. So it's not how much you're doing, it's what you're doing that really matters. So that's the factor. So doing the right things, not doing a whole bunch of things, that's the point. And the other factor, of course, is buoyancy. So if the vessel is small but the load is heavy, it pushes it down into the waterline too far. And that's where you're in danger of sinking. So that's where you're in danger of going to the bottom. Have you ever noticed that when you see a boat out on the water, it's got this red at the bottom? Have you noticed that? See, that red is when the red goes below the surface, that's when they know the boat is in trouble. So that's as high as the water line should be, because here's what they know. As soon as a storm comes up, if that red line is below the surface, that boat's going down. So they got to keep it above the water line, right? And so that's why I'm saying don't rock the boat. So in your life, is the load you're carrying so heavy that the support system you have around you won't hold it up? Because if that support system won't hold it up and you're getting really, you say, I'm doing pretty good, but as soon as the storms hit, you'll start taking on water and things will get bad. You know what I'm talking about? So see, changes in our life that we make that sacrifice our support system always ends in disaster. See, I watch people, they change partners and change churches and change jobs and change cities and say, this is this great change. But meanwhile, they sacrifice the support system that's holding them up, and it doesn't go well. Because we all need a support system. You need a group of friends around you. You need accountability in your life. You need neighbors and friends. You need this support system around you to help keep life above water. Is this making sense? Okay? See, that's buoyancy. That's how it works. And see, most of us can keep things going pretty good when things are smooth. See, when the water's smooth, it doesn't matter how much load you have. As long as you're floating, you're okay. But how many of you guys know it's not always that way? Because I know this is going to be a surprise, but every once in a while, there'll probably be family drama. Anybody understand family drama, right? Every once in a while, there'll probably be some relationship strife. I like that word. Makes it sound like sophisticated, okay? And every once in a while, there'll be some unseen hardships or some outside influences that will start to rock the boat. And see, that's when the waves come over the side. See, things rise up when the load is heavy or the focus is too narrow. That's when it really rocks our boat and we're in danger. See, now watch this. In rough waters, that's when we decide it's time to make some changes. That's just like, we're just that way. People work that way, right? Now, there are two things in life that are pretty stagnant. Two things in life that really don't change much. Time and energy. People say, oh man, I wish I had more time. Last I checked, the day is 24 hours long. That's pretty much it. Real consistent. Okay? So time is pretty stagnant. And energy, people say, well, I'm going to drink a rock star so I have more energy. No, you're going to borrow that energy from someplace. Right? You don't get more energy. So, some of us that are older understand, when you're tired, you're just tired. You can't say, I'm going to bring a rock star so I'll have more energy. No, you're still tired, right? So those things are pretty stagnant. So what this means is that we manage time and energy by managing the balance in our life and the buoyancy keeping our life above water, right? So it's the challenges to those things that's what kind of changes life up a little bit. So there's this story in Acts chapter 27. In Acts chapter 27, the Apostle Paul, he put on the ship and he's supposed to go to Rome. So God has him on a mission. And so when he gets on this boat, they go to a certain place, and it was pretty late in the year. And so what happened was, it said there was a gentle breeze blowing, so they thought it was a good time to sail. But the Apostle Paul said, guys, this is a bad idea. Anybody ever tell you something is a bad idea? Every husband in this room knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Say, buddy, this is a bad idea. Nah, I got this. Later, you're like, okay, so a storm comes up, things are bad, and so watch this. It's in Acts chapter 27, verse 18, here's what it says. So we took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. Okay? Verse 19, on the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. And when neither sun nor star appeared for many days and the storm continued raging, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. See, fear can rule our lives when the storms hit. Fear can rule our lives. So now people say, man, if it wasn't for this storm, the storm is not the problem. Because everybody experiences storms. You know that, right? So if everybody would just get along in the family, everything would be perfect. Your family is not always going to get along because there's those people, right? There's no such thing as a trouble-free life. It doesn't work that way. So it's the storm isn't the problem. Maintaining balance and buoyancy, that's the problem, right? Now, it's the decisions we make in those troubles. Now, 4 observations about this story. 4 observations about the stuff we get ourselves into. Observation number 1. This mess was something of their own choosing. How many of us know most of the time we are responsible for the mess we've gotten ourselves into? I have any friends in the room, okay? How many of us have said, me and my big mouth? Anybody ever said that? Come on, you need a couple guys there, okay? It's like, oh man, here we go, right? Okay, number 2, most storms last more than just one day. Hey, man, I can't wait for this to be over. Buckle up, Buttercup, might be a while, right? Okay. Observation number 3, we are seldom in storms alone. So it really matters how we manage those. And observation number 4, this is where I'm going with this. When we think things are going down, we make changes to the value of things that we thought had value. Okay, you still with me? See, we chase after things that we think that we're missing, often in exchange for the stuff that really matters. Harvard University recently did a study on happiness. Interesting. Asking college kids what makes them happy. That is hilarious to me. But see, so they said, because the given wisdom was, if I had enough resources, if I was rich, I would be happy. Well, here's what Harvard discovered. College students discovered. Being rich won't make you happy. Man, that's disappointing, isn't it? Because I had plans. Being rich won't make you happy, but there's 4 things that will make you happy. This Harvard study, 4 things that will make you happy. Being surrounded by friends and family will make you happy. Well, the right friends and the right family. Okay. Forgiveness, being willing to forgive other people. You'll find happiness in that. Giving will make you happy because it feels good to be able to utilize your resources to make a difference in the world. And gratitude, being grateful for the life that you have, will bring happiness. Okay, so that's what that's what makes what we're talking about today. We're talking about priorities, godly priorities. Okay, so we get a clue of what these guys thought were high priorities from what they threw overboard. See, sometimes the stuff you think is important until you have to throw some stuff overboard. That's when you really pick out what's important, right? Say, I love all you kids. Something goes wrong. Say, well, no, sorry, you got to go. No, I'm just kidding. But you understand. And so the 4 things that they threw overboard, they threw over the cargo. They threw over the ship's tackle. Okay? They threw over their food. And they threw over the anchors. Okay? Now here's what's interesting. I did some study to make sure I got this because some of this stuff didn't make sense. So number 1, they threw over the cargo. Sometimes we carry somebody else's junk. Anybody ever carry somebody else's junk? And when times are tough, you don't want to carry somebody else's junk. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Tired of carrying your crap, buddy. I am done, right? So it makes sense that we would throw that overboard. Then the next thing they threw over the ship's tackle, I'm thinking, why would you throw the ship's tackle? You're going to need that stuff. But the ship's tackle is, I thought it was boat stuff. It wasn't boat stuff. That was actually their luggage. Don't we hang on to our luggage? Anybody pack around some luggage? Got some stuff coming from a former relationship. Nobody's ever going to do that to me again. So I'm carrying on forgiveness, man. I'm waiting for them, man. One more time. I'm killing you dead, right? So we carry. So when you're in crisis, you realize that luggage isn't as valuable as you thought it was. And the next thing they threw over was the food. It's like, why would you throw over the food? See, it's funny how fasting is like the last thing we think of. Well, nothing else is working. I guess I better pray. There's a novel concept. See, it's getting serious with God. Making the personal sacrifices that you need to make to bring about change in your life. And the last thing they threw over was the anchor. So, my friend, what's holding you back? What is it that's keeping you moving forward? What is it you hang on to? See, so that's about priorities. Okay, so now when the external conditions replace internal revelation, it always leads to crisis. When we develop priorities out of crisis, we're always chasing the blessing instead of the blessing chasing us. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 2 says this, the blessings will overtake you. But see, if you're living in crisis and it's always crisis, it's always a problem, you're always chasing after the blessing, that's upside down, man. The blessings are supposed to chase you. That's why priorities are a big deal, right? So watch this. So when we live life for the moment, and the crisis of the moment or the conditions around us, our future is consumed at the expense of our future. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 10 says it this way. Is that for me? Okay. I told them not to call me during church. Okay. 2 Corinthians, you know why I do that? It'll never happen again. Okay. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 10 says this. He gives seed to the sower and bread for food. Seed to the sower and bread for food. So what are you saying? Don't eat your seed. If you eat your seed, you won't have a future. It might satisfy you right now, but if you don't invest in your future, you won't have a future, right? Check this out. This is a seed. Everybody say pumpkin. Now, this isn't an average pumpkin seed. You know why this is not an average pumpkin seed? If you plant this pumpkin seed will produce a 300-pound pumpkin. That's a heck of a big pumpkin, right? You talk about making a jack-o'-lantern, baby, this will make a life-size jack-o'-lantern, right? 300 pounds. You know how you get a 300-pound pumpkin? Go ahead, ask me. Come on. I'm so glad you asked. So the guy that I got these seeds from, he said the first year you save the seeds from the biggest pumpkin, and you plant those the next year. Then you save the seeds from the biggest pumpkin that year, and you plant them the next year. Then you save the seeds from the biggest pumpkin that year. On and on and on. This is 20 years worth of work. So here's what I'm saying. If you consume what comes your way and you don't invest in your future, you sacrifice your future, my friend, there is power in the seed. See, when the storm comes, it waters the seed and the seed gets better. When you bury the seed, you might think things are over, but it makes the seed grow. When you put the heat to the seed, it gets bigger than it's ever been. You see what I'm talking about? Time and waiting always matures the seed. There's power in the seed. It seems insignificant because you can't see the promise inside the seed. You see what I'm saying? So that's why godly priorities matter so much more than current circumstances. Now listen. What's first is not your job. If you put your job first, it will cause you problems. Anybody discovered that yet? Right? Because there's other things that are way more important than your job. See, this guy, he can't take any time off of work, can't afford it again, until his kid is in Valley Children's, and all of a sudden he can take a week off. See, now guess the second thing. What's first is not your kids. I have people say, well, my kids always come first. You're teaching them bad stuff because you're jacking them up, because now they're going to have relationships that they're going to mess up, because kids are not supposed to be first. They're important, because that's the only thing we have to make grown-ups out of. Just saying that terrifies me. But they're not the most important, because you also want them to have balanced relationships. Your spouse is not the most important thing. People say, what? What are you talking about? Because your spouse deserves for you to be fully committed to Christ. And if you're fully committed to Christ, they don't have to worry about you. Right? You see what I'm talking about? Okay, so that's why. God always says put him first. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33 is just real simple. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all these other things will be added. So if I put God first, I'm probably going to have a way better relationship with my wife. If I put God first, I'm probably going to like my kids more. You thought I was going to say make your kids better. I'm not going there. That's a different conversation. If I put God first, I'm probably going to do a way better job on the job. God says put him first. And so for insight into Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, you look at Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 through 40, where Jesus is asked, what is the most important thing? What is the top priority on the globe? Jesus said, I'm glad you asked, because the top priority is that you love God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your mind. You love God with all of your emotion and your feelings. That's your heart. You love God with all of your living, breathing, walking around kind of living. That's your soul. And you love God with your thoughts, your planning, and your dreaming life. That's how you love God, with all of your heart, soul, and mind. And then he said, and the second one is like it, or the second one is connected to it, glued to it. It's one and the same, and that's as you love others at least as much as you love yourself. The reason you can't separate the first one from the second one is the way that you fulfill the first one is by fulfilling the second one. See, the way that we love God is by loving others. And so people can tell if you love God, if you love others. If you don't like other people, then you probably have a problem between you and God, right? You still with me? Okay. See, now see, we like to package our life into boxes. We keep everything separated, segmented. This is how we do it. So we have work life, we have a marriage life, we have family life, we have rest and recreation, we have our social life, and we have God. So here's the thing: as long as work doesn't step on marriage or family, we're good. Because we know when work starts stepping on marriage and family, it causes us problems. If you don't know that, check it out. You'll learn it. Okay. We know that as long as recreation doesn't crowd work, then we're good. Say, what do you mean? So if you're staying up till 3 o'clock playing video games and you got to get up at 6 o'clock to go to work, I'm pretty sure you're going to get fired. Right? That's priorities, right? Okay. So and we know as long as our social life doesn't take away from our rest. So if you're out messing around till about 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday night and your kid's got a basketball game at 8 o'clock in the morning, they are going to be late and they'll get kicked off this team, right? We understand it gets only there. And so as long as we can keep up our God life, we're good. But here's the thing, that's not what Jesus said. He doesn't want you to have a God life. He wants to be God of your life. He doesn't want to be part of your life. He wants to be the point of your life. He doesn't want to be some of you. He wants to be all of you. He doesn't want to participate when you have time. He wants to be God all the time. Right? So here's the deal. So he wants to be God while you're working. He wants to be the love in your marriage. He wants to be the legacy in your family. He wants to be the reason for your rest. He wants to be the joy of your recreation. He wants to be the point of your social life. That's where strength and joy come from. You see, loving others isn't really what we do for them. It's what we sacrifice because of them. That's what makes a difference. Okay? So when we narrow our world to where smaller and smaller, we live life in a canoe, but the sea that we live in doesn't get any smaller. And then the weight of everything is on our shoulders, and that's why whenever the storms comes, it messes you up. Am I getting through to you guys at all about priorities? So, see, when the storms of life rock our boat, that's when we start making decisions about what to throw over. And sometimes what we think is the problem might not be the problem. Some of the stuff sometimes that we throw over actually is the stuff that's keeping the boat afloat. So it really matters what you toss. So I'm going to finish up with an example from 1 Kings chapter 17, just to make this just cookies on a bottom shelf. So 1 Kings chapter 17, there is a severe famine in the land. People are literally starving to death. So the prophet Elijah, God sends him to a place, and get this is just how God works. So he sends him to a brook where he's drinking water from the brook, and he has ravens bring him food. That's just weird. You know what a raven is? You know the big old black birds around? You know the ones that are really, really loud? You know what I'm talking about? So these birds are bringing the prophet food. You know what's a miracle about that? Them birds don't share. They're like your kids. They don't share. So they're bringing them food. So the prophet, the whole time everybody else is starving, the prophet's eating. So what happens now, because there's a famine, there's no rain, the brook dries up. So we're subject to this world. That's the way it works. So when the brook dries up, God tells this prophet who's been eating regularly every day to go to a little town called Zarephath. Got to practice that one. Zarephath. And so there he meets a woman, a widow, who's gathering sticks. And she's going to bake a small cake for her and her son as the last thing that they will ever eat. And they're going to eat that, and that's all they have, and then they're going to die. Last meal. Okay? So this prophet who's been eating every day, now because I have a great imagination, I just imagine he's a little portly. right? You like that word? Okay. He's a little portly. So he finds this widow. She says this is the last thing she has to eat. So she's like super sucked up. She looks like she's on meth. She's really super skinny. But the difference is she has teeth. It'll take you a minute. You'll figure this out. And so he says, so what are you doing? She says, well, I'm gathering up sticks, and I'm going to make a cake for me and my son, and we're going to eat that, and then we're going to die. So this portly prophet, guess what he says? Oh, good. Then make me one first. What? Does that sound insane? People are like, are you kidding me? That doesn't make any sense at all. How unreasonable can you possibly be? Have you ever thought God is unreasonable? You ever thought that God has asked you something like, God, I can't do this. This is impossible. This can't be. This can't be you, God. Yeah, make me one first. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. If I don't have enough for me, why would I make you one first? If I don't have the resources to take care of me, why in the world would I ever give mine away? If I'm already exhausted, how can I be expected to do more? That doesn't make any sense. If I already don't have enough time, how can you expect me to give time? That doesn't make sense. You see, the problem is, you don't understand the dynamics of heaven. That's the problem. You don't understand how God works. You don't understand how we can take the nothing and make something. You don't understand how we can take the not enough and make it more than enough. You don't understand how we can take 5 loaves and 2 small fish and feed 5. You don't understand the dynamics of heaven. See, when God is asking you to do something, He's not asking you to make sacrifices. He's asking you to plant a seed, invest in your future, and watch the miracle break open for you. That's what He's asking you to do. Give seed to the sower and bread for food. Turn to somebody and tell them, don't eat your seed. Plant it. Plant it. So this widow of poverty, abject poverty. See, this is real poverty. When you think, okay, I'm going to eat this, that's the last thing I'm ever going to eat in my life, then I'm going to literally starve to death. That's crazy. This widow of poverty, as an act of faith, reached into that flour bin, that empty flour bin. She pulled out a handful of flour, and she set it in the bowl. Then she took up a jar of oil and poured out a little bit of oil from the empty jar. She made a cake for the prophet, handed it to him. She went back to that empty flour bin, took out another scoop of flour from the empty flour bin, poured out a little bit more oil from the empty vessel, made a cake for her and her son. The next morning, she got up, went to the empty flour bin, took out a handful of flour, put it in the bowl, tipped up the empty jar, and made a cake for her, for the prophet. Then she reached back into the empty flour bin, pulled out a handful of flour, tipped up the empty jar, and made a cake for her and her son. She did this the next day, the next day, the next day, and on and on. What am I trying to say? When you honor God and you really make Him first, you will never pour out more than God will give back. That's what I'm saying. Friends, your boat's not going down because your miracle is still on board. Here's what the Apostle Paul told those people sailing with him that day. They were afraid everything is going down. One thing he said, stay on the boat. Turn to somebody and tell them, stay on the boat. Matter of fact, you can probably write this down. Don't bail out, buckle up. Okay? Tell somebody, don't bail out, buckle up. My friend, that is prophetic for you right now. Some of you guys, you're getting ready to bail out. I'm telling you, don't bail out, buckle up. My friend, if you will ride out this storm, there is a miracle inside. So the ship is in the middle of the greatest storm it's ever been in. Everybody's afraid it's going down. The Apostle Paul says, you know what, guys, you don't got to worry. The reason God is going to save this ship is because there's a miracle on board. The reason God is going to preserve your family because there's a miracle in your family. The reason that God is going to take care of you because there's a miracle on the inside. See, God will save an entire shipload of people. Well, you got to be careful how you say that. I just thought of that. God will save a whole boat of people. I'm going to change that one next service. I've been known to slip a time or two. And that's the only thing you'll remember if I do. I say, see, you guys are messed up. And we do altar call. I'm serious, you know. So God will save the whole boat to preserve you and your promise. God will save your whole family to preserve the promises inside of you. You say, well, I don't see it. I'm carrying 20 300-pound pumpkins in my pocket. So what's that, like 6,000 pounds, right? I have 6,000 pounds in my pocket. So I don't see it. See, you don't see the miracle inside the seed. If you saw the miracle inside the seed, you would see the miracle inside the seed. There's a miracle in your life, my friends. That's what I'm saying. When you put God first, you'll reach into what you thought was an empty flour bin and you'll pull something out. When you put God first, when you tip the jar that you thought there was nothing in there, God will pour something out. See, that's what I'm saying. Don't bail out. Buckle up. Could I get you to bow your heads and close your eyes for just a moment, please? Today, this is huge. If you're going through a significant storm in your life and you're facing the temptation to bail out, raise up your hand. Say, Pastor Dave, that's me right now. Come on, come on. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's not a person on this planet that hasn't been tempted to quit at least once. Because every time the storms come your way, whether self-inflicted or not, it's hard to stay on board. It's hard not to bail out. It's hard to think that nothing bad is going to happen. Today, if you're tempted to bail, again, show me your hand. Come on, show me your hand. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I'm praying that the miracle that is in you will remind you of why you're here. Second question. You're going through a huge storm. And you're really trying to figure out priorities. And we know what it is to have messed up priorities. So if you're sitting here today, see what I just got to get my priorities back in order. You know that? Just show me a hand real fast, up and right back down. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Could y'all stand today, please? My friend, that is so important. There's a miracle in there. You know there's a miracle in there, right? Do you guys even realize the fact that you're here right now? Do you realize that's a miracle? Think about it. See, some of you guys, think back. Did you ever imagine you'd be standing in church? Period. Other than a wedding or funeral? Right? Because you know that don't count, right? People say, I'll go to church. I've had people say, well, you know, hey, I'm following God. I've seen the places you go. I'm pretty sure God didn't lead you there. I'm just following God. I don't think so. You're a miracle. our miracle. Hang on to that seed and watch what God can do. You say, it's just really hard right now. Yeah. But hang on to that seed. Watch what God can do. Don't bail out. Buckle up. Okay? Tell somebody, buckle up. Yeah, come on, tell them. She needs to hear that. Tell her again. Yeah. Okay.